This is part 4 of the chapter Heredity and Evolution, Standard 10 Science. So going further, we will see how does evolution have developed and how have we found exactly what is the relationship. So if you see, some things prove that evolution have definitely taken place. What are those 4 things? So we have morphological or anatomical evidence, vestigial organs, embryological evidence, and fossils or paleontological evidence. Now all these 4 things prove that actually evolution has taken place over a huge period of time, millions of years. So we come to the first one, morphological or anatomical evidences. So what are those? So in this we see some organs have developed from the basic design in different types of animals. Now there are 2 types of organs for this. We'll have to see. First is called the homologous organs. So what are homologous organs? These are the organs which have the same basic structure and origin is the same, but if you see, they have different functions and different appearances. For examples, forelimbs of a frog, a lizard, a bird, and a man, they seem to have built from the same basic design, but they perform different functions. So if you see, this is an example of homologous structures. So in this we can see a human, a cat, a whale, and a bat. These organs seem to have developed from the same things, but they have different functions and different appearances. Cat is using this forelimbs for a different purpose, humans are using the forelimbs for a different purpose, and all that. So then comes the second, called the analogous organs. So what are called analogous organs? Now analogous organs are those which have different basic structural design, but their appearances are the same and they perform similar functions. For example, the wings of a bird. This is the best example. The wings of a bird and bats, they look similar, but you have to remember they are different in design. For example, the wings of a bat are actually the skin folds. They are very thin and they look like wings, and they are stretched between elongated fingers, just like the webs of a frog. And whereas the birds, they are covered by feathers all around. So if you can see this structure, this diagram, it will show you. This will show a clearly thing, bats and birds. So in bats, it is the skin folds. So these are the folds of the skin. These are not thin, whereas this are feathers. Now it means, what are analogous structures? They are structures which have similar functions among unrelated animals, but they do not come from the same embryological tissues, means they do not come from the originate from the same design. Now these are some other examples: shark, the fin, penguin bird, the wings, and dolphins, the flipper. Now this is what is called analogous organs. So they have similar appearance, but they have different features. The second proof of evolution is vestigial organs. Now what are vestigial organs? Now these are the organs which were present maybe a few thousands and millions years ago, but due to non-usage of that parts, the skeleton has been modified, and in the present form we feel that they are almost all obsolete, useless, but they are still present in minute things. So these rudimentary and non-functional organs, presently non-functional organs, are called vestigial organs. So they were fully developed at one time, many thousands of years ago, but then they have disappeared due to the change in the mode of life, in the habits, in the walking habits, sleeping habits, and all those behavioral changes have made some modifications in the original skeleton. Now the best example of this in humans are the nictitating membranes, and it was actually a tail vertebrae. So what do you mean by this? So we will see this. So these are the vestigial in other animals. So whales, they have a very small unformed hind legs. They were most likely used to walk on land. Similarly, blind male rats, they have tiny eyes that are covered by a thin layer, rendering the eyes useless. Then the emu, the ostrich, and the cassowary and the penguins, they have wings, but they are incapable of flight. It is because they have always walked. If you see the penguin, it is modified, and such organs are called vestigial organs. Now in humans, if you see, this is the human eye. This part is actually the nictitating membrane. It was a third membrane given for protection against dust, germs, and all these things. But since it was not used, so we are now using this eyelid. This eyelid has the function of protecting us. So these are considered as vestigial organs. Then the third is embryological evidences. So if you see, there is a similarity in multicellular organisms, giving us an idea that there was a common ancestry. For example, when you have studied of vertebrates in 9th standard, vertebrates are classified as one group because in the top they are almost the same. As we go down the group, you will find they are having little differences in the vertebral columns, and then they are differentiated as different types of animals. So this but tells us that they may be having a common ancestor, and only due to evolution through millions of years they are now in the present forms. The fourth and the most important is fossils, or these are also called as paleontological evidences. So what are fossils? So fossils are nothing but the remains or impressions of dead animals which are preserved in the soil or the rocks, and which were present millions of years ago. So what happens is, when a dead insect, no, in those times the earth was hot, so it will not decompose in this hot condition. In fact, it will just harden, and that hardened impression will be there on that mud or that rock forever. And when we are excavating, we are exploring, we find fossils. So these are called fossils. Now depending on the appearances, there are actually 5 types of fossils. One is called fossil trunk trees. Fossil invertebrates are of 2 types, then fossil fish and fossil dinosaurs. So these are actually fossils. So what are fossils? So this is how fossils look like. Now this is the fossil of a dinosaur, this is of a dragonfly. This is what exactly is found nowadays when these excavators, they go for excavation, they find that deep under the layers of the soil we are finding this. So these are called fossils. Now the question arises, how are fossils formed? So fossils are formed. How do they form? So these fossils are formed by millions of years. So what happens, whenever dead plants and animals, they fall down, they are covered layer by layer over millions of ages by, say, rocks, mud, other animals, millions of years. This may be due to tsunamis, volcanoes, earthquakes, and many such natural phenomena. Now over millions of years, when they in case of sea, if you see, invertebrates which were dead, they always fall down to the bottom of the sea, and then sand accumulates over them layer by layer, and due to intense pressure we find fossils. Similarly, dinosaurs. Now we know dinosaurs are now extinct, but they were millions of years ago they were very dominant features or creatures on the earth. Now what happened is, due to some ecological imbalances, starvation, and their adaptation decreased, most of the dinosaurs or almost all the dinosaurs died. Now when they died, they just fell down and they were compressed into rocks, because they were layers forming over millions of years. So this made them into fossils. Then some parts, are eroded by waters, and then some people go and just excavate below, and as we dig deeper, we find these impressions are still present even today. So now the question comes, how do we know the age of a fossil, because it's millions of years? So there are 2 ways by which fossils can be think. One is called so this is how a fossil is formed. We'll just see this. So an animal is buried. This is the first step. Animal is buried, and volcanic ash, silt, whatever it is, due to different natural phenomena, it accumulates over it, but its bones are protected from rotting by the layer of sediment. Next, layer upon layers are accumulated over years of millions of years. then because of some movement of tectonic plates, okay, a giant slab it makes up so the earth's surface, so it further pushes it. Now they come closer to the surface because of the movement of this. Then due to erosion from rain, rivers, wind, some parts of it remains, they are eroded away, and they are then found by people by digging. Now this is called this thing of fossil. Now the question comes, how do we determine the age of a fossil? So there are two methods. So how do they do this? So first is they see, it is called relative dating and radiometric dating. Relative dating means as we go deeper and deeper, the deepest ones which are found are approximately the oldest ones, and the ones which are found near the surface are relatively, but this is an approximate one. So radiometric dating, these are used to estimate the age of rocks and fossils. So how do they do this? Now if you see this diagram, this is a newly formed rock. Now after some years, now there are two elements here, uranium and lead. Now lead is in blue color and uranium is in this color. Now the same rock, after some time you see there is the accumulation of elements here, and as you go the rock is still the same, but then lead is there. So uranium is actually being radioactive, it turns into lead. Now this is what the scientists do. Depending on how many uranium has degraded into lead, they can come to know the age of the fossil. So this is what is called dating. Now what are the uses of fossils? So fossils are used to analyze the racial history of plants and animals, which plants and animals were there in the previous years where we were not present. Second thing is the past climatic conditions, why they were formed, how they were formed, will give you an idea of the conditions of the earth at that time. And third is how much far away we are from that time, is it will give us an indication of the geological time of these things. This is what is there about fossils. Thank you.